stopped brushing and stared at the wall behind me, trying to understand what I was seeing. I slowly lifted my hand. My shadow stayed still. The toothbrush slipped from my fingers and hit the sink loudly. My chest tightened so fast I could barely breathe. Then, a second later, the shadow lifted its hand too. I backed away from the mirror immediately, but my shadow didn't move with me right away. It stayed near the sink for one horrible second before sliding backward across the wall. I can still picture it clearly. I stood there frozen, convincing myself I was just tired. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. Maybe the light was flickering. I even laughed nervously to calm myself down. But deep inside, I knew what I saw. That night, I left every light on in my apartment. I locked my bedroom door and kept checking the corners of the room every few minutes. Every shadow suddenly felt alive. Every small movement made my heart race. And sometime around 3 a.m., I heard soft footsteps outside my bedroom door. The next night, I tried to pretend everything was normal. I told myself I was overthinking. People see weird things when they're tired. That's what I kept repeating in my head while making coffee in my kitchen. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about the shadow. Every room in my apartment felt different now. The corners looked darker. The silence felt heavier. Even when I sat on the couch watching TV, I kept checking the walls beside me without realizing it. Around midnight, I noticed it again. I was walking past the hallway when I saw my shadow stretch across the wall from the lamp behind me. At first, it looked normal, then it suddenly stopped moving. I kept walking. My shadow didn't. My shadow didn't. My stomach dropped instantly. I slowly turned my head toward the wall, and there it was, standing perfectly still while I moved farther down the hallway. It looked taller somehow, longer than my actual body. I couldn't breathe. The shadow slowly tilted its head toward me. I know that sounds impossible, but I swear that's what happened. Shadows aren't supposed to move on their own. They aren't supposed to react to you. But this one did. I stumbled backward and turned the lamp off immediately. The hallway went dark, and for a few seconds, I just stood there listening to my own heartbeat. Then I heard something else. A soft scratching sound, very slow, coming from the wall beside me. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight with shaking hands. The wall was empty. Nothing there. No marks. No person. Just silence again. But then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. My shadow was on the wall in front of me now. The flashlight was pointed the opposite direction. And somehow, the shadow was getting closer to my feet inch by inch while I stood completely still. By the third night, I hadn't slept properly in almost 2 days. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined that shadow standing somewhere in my apartment. And, waiting for me to look away, I started leaving lights on everywhere. The electric bill didn't matter anymore. Darkness felt dangerous now. I called in sick to work because I looked terrible. My eyes were red, my hands wouldn't stop shaking, and every little sound made me jump. Even the sound of my refrigerator turning on nearly gave me a heart attack. That night, I decided to prove to myself that I was losing my mind. I set up my phone camera in the living room and pointed it directly at the hallway where I kept seeing the shadow. I thought if nothing showed up on video, maybe I could finally calm down. For the first hour, nothing happened. I sat on the couch staring at my phone screen while the camera recorded. The apartment was quiet, except for the ticking clock near the kitchen. Then the hallway light flickered once. Just once. My stomach tightened immediately. I looked toward the hallway, then back at the phone screen. At first, everything looked normal. Empty hallway. Empty hallway. Empty walls. Then I noticed movement. A dark shape slowly slid across the wall near the ceiling. Not walking, sliding. Like smoke crawling underwater. I froze completely. My body wouldn't move. I kept staring at the screen while the shadow stretched longer and thinner across the wall. And then it stopped, right outside my bedroom door. I slowly turned my head toward the real hallway. Nothing was there. But on my phone screen, the shadow remained perfectly visible, standing still, watching. I grabbed the phone with trembling hands and replayed the recording, hoping it was some lighting glitch. But halfway through the video, something made my blood run cold. The shadow moved before the hallway light, flickered, like it already knew the light was about to change. Then, near the end of the recording, the shadow slowly turned toward the camera. The shadow slowly turned toward the camera, and for a split second, I could see two pale white eyes staring directly into the lens. The next morning, I deleted the recording. I couldn't keep looking at those eyes. Even after deleting it, I still felt sick every time I remembered the way the shadow turned toward the camera. It didn't feel random anymore. It felt aware, like it knew I was watching it. I tried telling myself there had to be a logical explanation. Stress, sleep deprivation. Maybe I was hallucinating from fear. So I called my friend Daniel to come over. Versus 1 didn't tell him everything because I already sounded insane in my own head. I just said strange things had been happening in the apartment, and I didn't want to be alone. When he arrived, I could tell he thought I was overreacting. He laughed nervously while looking around my apartment and asked if I'd been watching horror movies all night. I forced a smile, but my eyes kept drifting toward the hallway. For almost an hour, nothing happened. We sat in the living room talking, while the TV played quietly in the background. Having another person there actually made me feel calmer. The apartment felt normal again. Then Daniel suddenly stopped talking. His face changed instantly. "What is that?" he whispered. Every hair on my arm stood up. I turned slowly toward the wall beside the kitchen entrance. My shadow was there, but I was sitting down, and the shadow was standing. Daniel jumped off the couch immediately. "Dude, that's not funny." I couldn't even answer him. My throat felt tight. The shadow slowly lifted its arm. A second later, my own arm moved upward without me trying to move it. Panic exploded inside me. I grabbed my wrist with my other hand, trying to stop it, but the movement continued slowly, like my body was copying something invisible. Daniel backed away toward the front door, staring at the wall in complete horror. Then the shadow tilted its head again. And this time, Daniel saw it too. I will never forget the look on his face. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't imagining any of this anymore. After that night, Daniel refused to come back to my apartment. He barely even talked to me anymore. The second he left, he called me from his car and told me to get out of that place immediately. I could hear how shaken he was. His voice kept cracking like he was trying not to panic, but I didn't leave. Part of me wanted answers. I needed to understand what the shadow wanted from me. That same night, I noticed something even worse. The shadow had started copying me. Not instantly. A second too late. I first realized it while standing in my kitchen. I reached for a glass of water, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw my shadow hesitate before making the same movement. The delay was tiny, but impossible to ignore. I froze and slowly lowered my arm. The shadow kept moving. Its arm dropped a moment later. My chest tightened so hard it hurt to breathe. I walked backward carefully, keeping my eyes locked on the wall. The shadow followed every movement with that same unnatural delay, like it was studying me, learning how I moved, learning how I stood. Then I made a movement without warning. I suddenly raised both hands as fast as I could. The shadow didn't react at first. For half a second, it stood completely still. Then its arms snapped upward violently. Too violently. Not like a human movement. More like something trying to imitate one. More like something trying to imitate one. I stumbled backward in terror and knocked over a chair. The loud crash echoed through the apartment. But the shadow didn't disappear. It stayed there. It stayed there. Perfectly still again. Then slowly, it smiled. Not a real smile. Just the outline of one stretching unnaturally across its face. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. And then I realized something that made my stomach drop. The shadow wasn't copying me anymore. I was starting to copy it. Because every time it moved, my body suddenly felt the urge to move the same way a second later. Like something inside my head was sinking with it little by little. By the sixth night, I stopped. Feeling safe anywhere. It didn't matter if the lights were on anymore. The shadow still appeared. Sometimes on the walls. Sometimes across the ceiling. Once, I even saw it standing behind me in the reflection of my microwave door. But every time I turned around, nothing was there. I wasn't sleeping at all now. Every time I drifted off, I'd wake up seconds later, feeling like someone was standing beside my bed, watching me breathe. That night, around 2 a.m., I sat alone in the living room holding my phone flashlight like it could somehow protect me. The apartment was silent, except for the low hum of electricity in the walls. Then all the lights suddenly went out. Everything became pitch black. At first, I thought the power had failed, but then I noticed something terrifying. My phone flashlight was still on, and somehow, I still couldn't see the room clearly. The darkness looked wrong, too thick, like something was blocking the light itself. I slowly pointed the flashlight toward the hallway, and my heart nearly stopped. The shadow was standing there, not on the wall, in the hallway, tall, motionless, human-shaped, but not human. Its body looked made of pure darkness. Darker than the room around it. I couldn't see a face clearly, but I could feel it staring at me. I tried to stand up, but my legs barely walked. Then the shadow took one slow step forward. I heard the floor creak beneath it. That sound broke something inside me. Until that moment, part of my brain still wanted to believe this couldn't be real. But shadows don't make footsteps. Shadows don't bend the floorboards. The thing moved closer again, and suddenly my own body copied the movement without permission. My foot slid forward across the carpet exactly 1 second later. I panicked and tried to pull myself backward, but my arms started moving strangely too. Slow. Delayed. Like my body was listening to someone else now. Then the shadow slowly lifted one arm and pointed toward my bedroom door. I didn't want to go near the bedroom. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run out of the apartment, but my legs wouldn't listen properly anymore. It felt like something invisible was pulling me forward step by step. The shadow stood at the end of the hallway without moving, waiting. My body copied its posture automatically. My arms hung stiffly at my sides. My breathing beat. It became slow and uneven, almost matching the strange rhythm coming from the darkness around me. Then the bedroom door slowly creaked open by itself. I swear I never touched it. The room inside was completely dark, but I could hear something moving softly near the corner beside my bed. A faint, scratching sound, slow, careful. The shadow lifted its arm again. This time, my arm copied it instantly. Not a second later, at the exact same moment, that terrified me more than anything else. I tried to fight it. I tried forcing my body backward, but my muscles felt numb, like they no longer belonged to me. My feet carried me into the bedroom one step at a time, while the shadow remained standing in the hallway. Then I noticed something impossible. The shadow on the hallway floor wasn't connected to me anymore. It had separated completely. For my entire life, my shadow had followed me everywhere, every movement, every step. Now it was standing behind me instead. I slowly turned toward the bedroom mirror near the closet. At first, I only saw darkness. Then my reflection appeared, where something was wrong. I was standing in the middle of the room. My reflection was standing next to the bedroom door, smiling at me. A cold wave of panic rushed through my chest. I stumbled backward, but the reflection didn't move. It just kept staring at me with that stretched, unnatural smile, while the room around me grew darker and darker. Then the lights suddenly came back on. Everything looked normal again. The bedroom was empty. The hallway was empty. The hallway was empty. The shadow was gone. But when I looked down at the floor, my stomach dropped. I wasn't casting a shadow anymore.